coffee and song time. I got my coffee. Do you got yours? I'm Ezra Vansel, and Coffee and Songs, where I drink some coffee. I eventually play a song after I talk for a bit about whatever is on my mind. Today I think will be a long one. Got lots of thoughts. I'm going to play a song called Grandpa's Song. Oh no, it's called Goodbye Grandpas. What am I thinking? But I played at a little songwriter event in Floribama, in Frank Brown Songwriter Festival. And I was leaving from that event and I got some shrimp on the beach. And I was sitting there just thinking about, the set and the guys I talked to. And this family walks in, and it's something I see too often nowadays. But the little boy, I was just kind of peeking at him through the restaurant. And the boy was just sitting there on the phone. And I don't know, I got nervous. I was like, when is he going to put down the phone? And the parents are just sitting there kind of looking around. And I was like, when is he going to put down the phone and talk to him? I started imagining this is their vacation and this boy's living in some other world while he's at this beautiful beach and sitting with his parents having peel and eat shrimp, and he's sitting there on the phone the whole time. He eventually put it down to put the food in his mouth, but it just made me think about a lot of stuff. It actually makes me really sad. Now, you might think I'm a weirdo. My kids did for a while, but I didn't let my kids have phones. My daughter, even though, it was like one of the hardest things I did as a parent. My son, I think he went to live with his mom, I think at 14 or 15, and got a phone eventually. My daughter, I just held off, and I didn't want her to have one. And for the reason that I'm going to talk about today is I think that we somehow got the idea, maybe from 80s movies like Vacation, that boredom is a bad thing. And boredom is one of the great tools in my life, especially as a child. My memories are of me being bored and going into my imagination and thinking of things to do, even with friends. That's another thing is, one of the ways, I wasn't going to be like a tyrant over this, but one of the ways I wanted my daughter to be with me on this whole no phone thing was I just told her to look at people, and hopefully not in like a judgmental way, but just when we would go out, and she would see that. She would see that we're having conversations and enjoying each other. And we would look over at another table and the kids sitting on a phone and parents not even talking to them. And then just imagine that goes on for year after year. And also, at school and stuff, when she would go to her school and be with friends, I'd just tell her to look at how often they pick up their phones, how often they're looking at their phone and not talking to you. And so I did it more. I tried to do it more in a way to get her just to see that there's something very not natural about this whole thing that's going on. And now you might be wondering, well, maybe you're with me and you're like, yeah, but it's too late. I already gave him a phone. And that would be my son. And you can ask him how well it went. But for him, I made the mistake. I think video games are about the same, of getting him a video game thing at some age. I can't remember, and I could just tell right off this was like an addiction. And so what we did with him was a balance sheet. So he had to fill up his little bank account of time reading books. And we would time those, and he could write how much, time he spent reading. If he read for an hour, he could play video games for an hour. If he read sometimes I would let it go crazy. If he wanted to go read a whole book and read all day and log all these hours, then he could spend a day playing video games. It was up to him. But I thought at this point, I'm just going to force him into a love of books, and at least he'll carry that with him through life. And it kind of, even though it's so hard to do that even now, he'll be a lover of books, and he'll always long to sit down and read and be in that kind of internal world. And he is. He loves books, and he's a reader, and so there's things you can do, but just I think recognizing it, that boredom is good. It's a good thing. And this song I'm going to play today, Goodbye Grandpas, is a song born out of boredom. Because as a child, especially at grandparents' house, there's initial fun, there's food, there's playing, there's football. But if you're there for a while, it just gets quiet, it gets boring. And so I would just wander around. This house became like this museum of stories to me. And I would ask questions, I'd ask my dad things. And there was a big picture wall there, and it had pictures of everybody, older people, my dad when he was a baby, and my uncles when they were babies, and me next to them as a baby. And it was just this world that I would go into when I went there. And I'd always go over to that picture wall and study it. And what this is I think, is that I'm recognizing details of life. And the biggest thing for me is I found like I felt like I had an identity. It's a weird thing that I had. I think a lot of kids probably have this with picture books and looking at their family and learning about their family, mainly with pictures of looking at their father as a baby and him growing up and all this kind of stuff, is finding an identity of who you were. And that's just, let's not get into the problems today. There's always been problems, but one of the big ones, I think, is just young people don't have an identity. And that's not something I ever had a problem with. I was a Vansel, and a Vansel had an identity. We were certain things. All Vansels know how to paint really well. All Vansels are creative, and all Vansels talk a lot. No, some of them do. I'm one of them. But I had an identity, and it wasn't just my dad. It wasn't just my immediate family. It was like my grandma. It was my grandpa. My grandpa was a cowboy to me, and he was, there's an identity that came into me from that. And then stories I would hear, of generations or my uncles or stuff like this played in. Oak Cliff was a big part of our identity. Oak Cliff in Dallas. But so I picked up this identity, and then as a child, I would go study my identity in this hall. I don't know how many hours I spent in this hallway looking at all these pictures. I would go visit them again because there's pictures that were my favorite pictures to go look at. And today, I said it's going to be a long one because actually I have a poem I wrote about Grandma's picture wall. And I thought I would fit that in here into my boredom talk. Because I only did this when it got boring. And because it got boring, is I would go wander in the picture hall. I'd wander in the house, look at all my grandma's trinkets and her dolls and she sewed. And I don't know, I would go through absolutely everything in the house. And I wrote this poem and to kind of remember that visceral feeling of what that picture wall meant, and even pulled out some of the pictures that I still remember. They're just burned into my brain today. So I'm going to read a poem, and then I'm going to play Goodbye Grandpas. This is a new thing. I've never read a poem out loud, I don't think. So we're going to see how this goes. I might turn this off and try it a few times. It might go bad. This is called Grandma's Picture Wall. My heart remembers Grandma's picture wall. An old museum, dark, under the stairs. Show me who I am before I walk this hall. Just inches between baby me and baby Paul. My father, smiling with thick, long, flowing hair. My heart remembers Grandma's picture wall. Uncle Bobby's short makes Daddy tall. They didn't get on, visits are rare. Show me who I am before I walk this hall. Kathy, to my pure eye, the most beautiful. She was a cousin or aunt, hardly there. That's how I remember Grandma's picture wall. Dee Dee, young, she died, with a room full of dolls. Her eyes and nose on Grandma's face shared. Show me who I am before I walk this hall. Grandpa's holster, a gun ready to draw. Grandpa the cowboy, asleep in a chair. My heart remembers Grandma's picture wall. In frames, my reflection on glass, I recall. I walk there alone, a child's deep stare. Show me who I am before I walk this hall. I remember Grandma's picture wall. Goodbye, cowboys. Goodbye, whiskey. Goodbye, cigarettes. Goodbye, mornings with leftover gravy, and afternoons we slept. Goodbye, World War. Goodbye, Union. Goodbye, and bombs away. Goodbye, steel cars and all the ruins we're building up every day. He said it all before, so there was nothing left to say. He got what he came for, just to watch it all just slip away. I guess so. Goodbye. Goodbye, watches that hang from an old chain. Goodbye, John Wayne. Goodbye, angels. Goodbye, devils. You're looking more and more the same. Goodbye, Oreos. Goodbye, steel toes. Goodbye, JFK. Goodbye, Bonnie. Goodbye, Clyde. I hear you had a rough day. Did he wake up one morning to see that old watch had ticked away? And he'd heard it all before, so there was nothing that I could say. I guess, but goodbye. 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 So goodbye, playboys. Goodbye, Christmas toys. Goodbye, silhouette. Framed by the old TV in the cherry cold easy. That's where we slept. Goodbye, grandpas. Goodbye, grandsons. Goodbye, every day. Goodbye, real tall Santa Claus. I knew it was you anyway. Y'all have a very blessed week. Spend some time with your family. Put your phone down. Teach those grandkids some boring family history, maybe in a fun way. Tell them the good stuff. They like the good stuff. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you next time.